Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. प्यारे बच्चों, आज हम पढ़ने जा रहे हैं इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ सप्लाई के बारे में। जी हाँ प्यारे बच्चों, अब तक हम लॉ ऑफ सप्लाई के बारे में पढ़ चुके हैं, which states that there exists direct relationship between price and supply of a commodity. That is, more is offered for sale as there is rise in price, and when price level decreases, less is offered for sale. However, dear students, the law of supply does not tell us about the rate of change in supply. That is, it does not tell us about how much impact of price variation leads to variation in supply. Yes, dear students, the answer to the question that how much change occurs in absolute terms due to change in price is explained by the concept of elasticity of supply. Dear students, I will explain you the concept with the help of an example. Suppose a teacher gives rubber bands in the hands of two students, namely student A and student B. Now, if the teacher asks both the students to stretch the rubber as much they can. Now, if the teacher asks both the students that how much rubber band stretches on pulling, for example, if student A says that, sir, it stretches very long, while as student B says that it stretches up to 2 meters. Dear students, there is difference in the answers of two students. Student B gives answer in absolute terms. However, student A only gives answer in terms of direction, that it stretches very long, but does not tell that how much in absolute terms it stretches. Whereas student B gives answer in absolute terms. Dear students, same is the case of law of supply and elasticity of supply. Law of supply simply says direction, that how whether the price rise leads to rise in supply, and decrease in price leads to decrease in supply. However, it does not tell how much. The answer to this how much change in supply takes place due to variation in price is given by elasticity of supply. Yes, dear students, so we can say that elasticity of supply may be defined as the rate of change in supply as a result of change in price. Dear students, as far as this elasticity of supply is concerned, there are various types of elasticity of supply. Dear students, when the change in supply is equal to change in price, such elasticity is known as moderate elasticity. Here the elasticity, yes, dear student, the elasticity of supply will be equal to 1. As you see here in this figure, that when price was OP1, supply was OQ1. However, when price changes to OP2, quantity supplied also changes to OQ2. However, if we see here, change in price is equal to change in quantity. So here this is the case of unitary elasticity of demand. That is that the change in price is equal to change in supply. Now dear students, if you see the second case here, when price changes from OP1 to OP2, supply also changes from OQ to OQ1. However, if you see here, the gap between P1 and P2 is greater than Q1 and Q2. Therefore, we can see here that large change in price leads to less change in supply. So we can say here that change in price, that is del P, is greater than del S, that is change in supply. Yes, dear students. So we can say that this is an example of less elastic supply. Third case here, you see that when price changes from OP1 to OP2, the quantity also changes from quantity supplied also changes from OQ1 to OQ2. If you see here, the gap P1 and P2 is less than Q1 and Q2. So we can say that change in price leads to more change in supply. So we can say that here that del S, that is change in supply, is greater than change in price. Yes, dear students, we can say that this is more elastic supply. Yes, dear students, then there is case of this, like this. When price was OP1, demand, this supply was OQ1. Dear students, if you see here that when price was OP1, this quantity was this OQ1. When price was OP2, quantity was also OQ1. This means that when supply does not change with a change in price, the supply is said to be perfectly inelastic. As you see here in this diagram given above, the supply curve is parallel to y-axis. This is known as perfectly inelastic. Inelastic means when while stretching anything, it does not tend to stretch. This is known as inelastic. Because here the impact of prices on the quantity supplied is nil. That's why it is perfectly inelastic. And finally, here is the case of perfectly elastic, when there is no change in price, however the quantity supplied goes on changing. This is known as perfectly elastic supply. Now dear students, with this we have completed the concept of elasticity of supply. Yes, dear students, this was all about today's topic. Have a nice day. Allah Hafiz.